to discuss regarding my today's topic on emergency management of acute ischemic stroke. I'll be quick in my discussion. So the ischemic stroke is the main topic of discussion today, and the stroke is a sudden onset of loss of focal brain function. So this is the core feature of stroke, and due to this sudden loss of focal brain function, uh, deficit over the body develops, and it is divided into acute management and subacute to chronic management. Subacute to chronic management mainly involves rehabilitation and prevention, but our today's topic is mainly will be focusing on acute management, which is to minimize the brain injury, to treat medical complication, and to determine the etiology. So our goals in initial phase, as the patient comes to the emergency department, so our initial goals are ensuring the medical stability. As in any emergency, we have to first look for A, B, and C, that is airway, breathing, and circulation. Then to rule out stroke mimicked by quick history and by quick imaging, and we have to determine if the patient is a candidate for intravenous thrombolytic therapy, that is IVT, or endovascular thrombectomy, that is EVT, and uncover the pathophysiologic basis of the neurologic symptoms. So as the patient comes, first there will be history and examination, time of onset or time of last known well. So this is the most essential part of the history to determine the time of onset of stroke, because it will lead to the further treatment of stroke, whether patient has came in less than 4.5 hours or less than 24 hours. So they can be the candidate of thrombolysis or thrombectomy. And we have to rule out mimics and contraindication to IV thrombolysis therapy, and we have to calculate the NIHS score. NIHS score is a stroke severity score. We calculate in the emergency. It is given from 0 to 42. Less than 5 is mild stroke, 5 to 15 is moderate stroke, and more than 15 is severe stroke. So we calculate NIHS score in every patient on arrival. Next, we'll rule out stroke mimics. Most commonly, hypoglycemia, seizure, syncope, or hysterical patient with functional deficit can present with symptoms like stroke, and that we have to rule out quickly without wasting much time. Now coming to the investigation, the essential investigation is non-contrast CT brain or brain MRI. So before starting any treatment, we have to do an neuroimaging. But first we have to stabilize and we have to maintain ABC before sending the patient for the imaging. And the only essential blood investigation is blood glucose. So no PTINR, no platelet, anything are not required before starting the treatment. And oxygen saturation, ECG, but ECG should not delay the imaging. There should be an ECG machine available in the emergency room. Otherwise, we don't have to send the patient to other room and then to the CT. So that should not be done. And sample can be drawn before IVT as needed, and that we have to tailorize as per the patient's history and imaging finding. Now coming to the neuroimaging. So neuroimaging is the only indication of neuroimaging is to differentiate ischemia from hemorrhage and to guide the treatment further. All other things are not immediately necessary if the patient is a candidate for thrombolysis therapy. So we have to differentiate ischemia from hemorrhage. That is the only needed thing. Other things we see in neuroimaging is to exclude stroke mimics, to assess the status of large cervical and intracranial arteries, and estimate the volume of brain tissue that is irreversibly damaged and the tissue which is reversibly, like infarcted tissue and ischemic tissue. We call it core and penumbra. And thereby we can further guide the acute intervention. And this all last 2 to 3 points are mainly required for selecting the patient for mechanical thrombectomy. Then coming to what should be done, CT or MRI? This is always a debated question, but all the international guidelines and all over the world, it is recommended CT is always better than MRI if you think in the emergency this is stroke and nothing else. Why? Because CT is widely available in even in the smaller towns. It has rapid scan times. CT will take less than a minute, while MRI will take you at least 15 to 20 minutes. And ease of detecting intracranial hemorrhage. Even small hemorrhage will be visible on CT, but not on MRI in some cases. And patients with contraindication and intolerance to MR. Many of the patients are claustrophobic, or many of the patients have maybe some pacemaker or some implants that are not compatible with MRI. So in those cases, CT is always better. And in rarely some cases, we'll do MRI in place of CT, like when we have to detect the size of acute infarction, or we have to exclude the stroke mimicry. So when in doubt whether this is really a stroke or not, we do MRI. Otherwise, we don't usually do MRI. And in cases of wake-up stroke, we'll discuss wake-up stroke later. But in cases of wake-up stroke, we do MRI brain. Other investigation are CT angio or MRI angio. We do angio along with CT scan or MRI to see the blood vessels and to detect if there is if there is any large vessel occlusion to guide the further treatment. And CT perfusion and MRI diffusion perfusion weighted imaging to select the patient for endovascular thrombectomy if they have came in the late time window, like 6 to 24 hours. So in those cases, advanced studies are also required. But if the patient is coming within 4.5 hours of window, we usually do CT with CT angio. It hardly takes 2 minutes, and we can tailorize most of the patients with CT and CT angio. So this is an example image of 35-year-old female. So this is CT scan. Initially, when patient comes, we do CT just to rule out any bleed, because bleed is easily visible. But in ischemic stroke, we don't usually see ischemic changes in early time period. So we just rule out the hemorrhage and we thrombolize the patient. Over time, it subtle changes develops, and as you can see, this is the CT scan after 8 hours. So you can see the difference in these two sides. So then you can detect the ischemia. This is example MRI image. So this is the diffusion sequence of MRI. It shows the infarct, and this is MR angiography, and this is digital subtraction angiography. So this is internal carotid artery, and this is middle cerebral artery, which is blocked on the left side and which is open on the right side. So while doing DSA, we can see that internal carotid artery followed by middle cerebral artery is blocked, and there is no further circulation, which was opened after doing mechanical thrombectomy, and this whole circulation is again achieved. So so this is the algorithm of stroke. So whenever the patient comes to the emergency, we activate the emergency response. Immediate call is given to the neurologist, radiology department, and intervention and cath lab. So we first check for the AVC and give oxygen support, check for the glucose. We take short history. We rule out whether it is a stroke mimic or it is a stroke. This should be done within 10 minutes. And neurologic assessment and calculation of NIHS score to determine the stroke severity should be calculated within 25 minutes. And CT scan is done immediately. If CT scan displays hemorrhage, then we treat it as a intracranial hemorrhage. But if it is not showing hemorrhage, that means it is an ischemic stroke. So we look whether it is a candidate for a thrombolytic therapy or not. If he is a candidate for thrombolytic therapy, then a thrombolysis should be started within 60 minutes of arrival of the patient to the emergency. And after the thrombolysis, we can admit him in ICU or stroke unit. Now coming to IV thrombolysis. So IV thrombolysis has changed the management of stroke since 2 decades, and every year the window and the selection of the patient who are eligible for IV thrombolysis is increasing, and more patients are being thrombolized these days. So at present, the criteria for thrombolysis is less than 4.5 hours of onset of symptom or the last known well. And we usually do thrombolysis with alteplase, but now tenecteplase has also came, and many trials are being conducted on tenecteplase also. And this thrombolysis shows time dependent response. So always the time is brain, and as early we thrombolize, better the response we get. So to inclusion and exclusion criteria. So what patients can be thrombolized? So clinical diagnosis of ischemic stroke with measurable neurological defect, onset of symptom less than 4.5 hours, and age more than 18 years. Exclusion criteria, there is a long list of exclusion criteria, but we have to keep the checklist of exclusion criteria in the emergency, and we mainly check for whether there is a coagulopathy or any history of previous intracranial hemorrhage or previous intracranial or any other malignancy. These are the usual exclusion criteria we see for. But we do not wait for this platelet and PT-INR reports to come before thrombolizing the patient. So in trials also, even any time window or in any age and any baseline NIHS score, alteplase is always better than giving no treatment within 4.5 hours. So this is the new entity in that is IVT in wake up stroke. Most of the patient, especially in winter, patient wake up with stroke. So the last known well time is usually before 6 to 7 hours of their sleep onset time. So in that case, most of the patients were not eligible for IV thrombolysis. But after the wake up stroke trial, we do MRI and we see for the diffusion and flare sequences, and we see if there is any mismatch or not. If there is a mismatch, that detects that the stroke has happened less than 4.5 hours of period, and we can thrombolize those patients. For example, these all are a different patient. So the late MRI shows this is diffusion sequences and this is flare sequence. So diffusion and flare changes are visible after 4.5 hours. But as you can see, before 4.5 hours, there is mismatch between this deficit and here. So that shows that the diffusion flare mismatch suggests that the stroke is less than 4.5 hours old. So we can thrombolize those patients. So in studies also, it has shown improvement with thrombolytic therapy. What is the risk of ICH? So approximately 5.5 to 7% has risk of symptomatic ICH with IV thrombolytic therapy, and more than 30% usually gets improved with thrombolysis therapy. So in any case, we should thrombolize whenever possible. IV tenecteplase. This is new agent in IV thrombolysis therapy. It is now challenging the 2 decades of alteplase. It is more fibrin specific and it has longer duration of action. And it has proven in many studies with efficacy and safety as well. And it has included with recommendation 2B in stroke guidelines also. And now coming to the bridging, that is IV thrombolysis followed by endovascular thrombectomy. So the patients who are eligible for both the reperfusion therapy, like those patients who has came within 4.5 hours of window, and they also have large vessel occlusion in angio. So those patients should be thrombolized, and as per guideline, they should immediately be taken to the cath lab for mechanical thrombectomy, because this large vessel occlusion most of the time do not get good results with only IV TPA. So they should be breached with thrombolysis followed by endovascular thrombectomy. So this is the short flow chart that according to the time, that how should the patient be managed. So the time is essence, whether patient is in within 4.5 hours, 4.5 to 24 hours, or more than 24 hours. So if patient is within 4.5 hours, then we give thrombolysis. If patient is within 4.5 to 24 hours, then we do angio also. After that, we see whether there is any large vessel occlusion or not. If he is less than 6 hours, then standard according to the standard guidelines, patient can be taken for mechanical thrombectomy. And if the patient has large vessel occlusion and patient has came after 6 hours but before 24 hours, then after advanced imaging studies, we can select the patient according to the Dawn and diffuse trial criteria. If he is fitting into those criteria, then we can take him for thrombectomy, and this window is extended now for up to 24 hours. And those patients who has no large vessel occlusion, then we do standard care. So the benefits of mechanical thrombectomy is also very good, and it has studied widely over many studies that it has proven functional independence and reduced disability. Even those patients who are not fitting into the IV thrombolysis group, they can also be taken to the mechanical thrombectomy. And there are mild adverse effects like development of new stroke, ascites, hematoma, pseudoaneurysm, like that, but they are very negligible compared to the benefit of thrombectomy. And other small management issues are like fluid. If patient is in dehydrated, then we should correct it with isotonic fluid. We should avoid a hypotonic or the fluid containing glucose. If patient has hypoglycemia, then we have to immediately treat it because it can be a mimic of stroke. Hyperglycemia is associated with poor functional outcome, and we should keep the patient NPO till the swallowing assessment is done. And if the patient has fever, we have to treat fever also. So, okay, thank you. I think I have taken much time. If you have any questions,